Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. We have around 1,000 registrations for this bootcamp, and it's very great to see people joining for all across the globe. And we hope this bootcamp is helpful to you, and every minute that you spend attending to it, this bootcamp is worth it. Let me introduce myself and other speakers and pillars of this bootcamp who have been a great support. So starting with myself, I am Jyothsna Bitra. I go by the name JB. I am a marketing cloud consultant, 22 times certified, and the CGL for the Salesforce Marketers Group Phoenix. I'm also the founder for the MC Learning Camp, which is an initiative to help people learn marketing cloud. So we have conducted several bootcamps earlier, and these bootcamps are to help people clear the certifications and to learn marketing cloud in depth. And this bootcamp wouldn't be possible without a great support from all the speakers and especially my mentors and my go-to persons. Guilda, Hilaire, she has been a great support, and Vlad, without whom the bootcamp is not possible, and Minendra. I will let you all introduce yourself. Guilda, please take it over.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gilda Hilaire. I am Director of Marketing Evangelism over at Salesforce. Super happy to be here and to provide JB all the support she needs.
All right, I'm going to go next. Vladimir Silak, also known as Vlad, quite often. I work at Salesforce for just over 10 years now, and I'm currently residing in the Partner Product Success team, working with our consulting and implementing partners, specifically on data cloud topics for the last 2.5 years. I've been, starting my journey here with Marketing Cloud, but last couple of years have been pretty much full-time busy with data cloud. So very happy to be here and looking forward to see all the great success and excitement and inspiration that's going to hopefully be done throughout all of the series in this bootcamp. And I'll hand it over to my colleague Minendra.
Hello, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Minendra. I'm solution architect in Marketing Cloud. I've come with 15, 16 years of digital experience across the industries, but 2.5 years, almost 3 years now with Salesforce. And I'm working more very closely with the Marketing Cloud as a solution architect. I'm really thrilled to be part of this bootcamp, and I hope we get some material for you guys to excite and enjoy our bootcamps. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So thank you for being part of this. So we will spend a few minutes for the overview of this bootcamp. So this is going to be a 3-part series. I would say this is a master series, which has all the content that is related to the data cloud. So we're not just focusing on the certification related sessions, but after the certification bootcamp, we have more sessions lined up. For someone who wants to learn data cloud in depth, we are planning for a few more sessions which are more advanced and in depth. So first, starting with today, we have this certification bootcamp, which is 12-day bootcamp. We will look at the schedule in the next slide. So this will help anybody who is a beginner to learn the basics of the data cloud and also be prepared for the certification. And after the Data Cloud Certification Bootcamp, we have the deep dive sessions, which are more implementation oriented. We will have a detailed demo and we will have a use case or advanced features in the data cloud. And we also are planning for the Data Cloud Workshop, which will be completely driven by Vlad. So you will get an opportunity to build along with us. So while Vlad and one of us while we build the solution, you can also try it out in your org. And we have more details coming up on this one. Maybe by the end of this month, we will provide more details on the sessions and the org access and so on. And coming to the schedule for this bootcamp, starting today, we are going to look at the data cloud overview and the lifecycle and typical use cases of the data cloud. And Vlad and Minendra will be taking us over through the data cloud overview. And this bootcamp happens every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you are attending from a different time zone, it will be your next day, morning or afternoon accordingly. So we have all these sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the same time. And I can't thank enough all the speakers involved in this bootcamp. So we have all the content that is aligned to the exam topics that are provided in the Data Cloud Certification Exam Guide. And this schedule for the deep dive sessions will be after TDX, and the build with us workshop sessions will be also scheduled after. And this is the schedule for the workshop. So we have all the individual topics covered for the workshop as well. So you will get an opportunity to go over how these are actually implemented within the data cloud. This bootcamp is for anyone. It may be the beginners or the experienced or the people who wants to learn in depth of data cloud. So this is for anybody who are aspiring to learn more in the data cloud. And this is intended to help clear the certification. And we do have swag. For each series that we have, the initial 12-day bootcamp and the deep dive sessions and the upcoming workshop, we have 3 certification vouchers for each of them. And also for people in the US, we have 1 swag item. So courtesy Guilda, our swag fairy. So the participation for all these sessions, and we may have a Kahoot quiz, and the active participants will get an opportunity to win this. Before we actually go into the topics, we'd like to cover some of the logistics. These sessions are all recorded. So if you cannot attend any of the sessions, these will be uploaded on the YouTube at the earliest possible. So we'll try to upload them as soon as possible. So the YouTube channel for this one is MC Learning Camp. You can find all previous recordings as well in here. All the upcoming sessions will be uploaded to this YouTube. And if you haven't registered to all the sessions of this bootcamp, we have published I think the 11 sessions of this bootcamp. So you can register to all the sessions and make sure that you join the group, so you get notifications of whenever an upcoming event is posted, a new event is published, or an event is upcoming. If you have any other questions after the session, I'll be sharing this link for the form wherein you can fill your questions, and we do have the Ask Me Anything panel at the end of this bootcamp, so we can address those questions during that time. And we do have a Slack channel for the collaboration. If you are already part of the MC Learning Camp Slack, please find the new channel created, #Data Cloud Bootcamp. Please join that to get data cloud specific, this bootcamp specific information and communications. Any other questions related to the bootcamp, you can post it there on the Slack channel. If you are not already part of the Slack channel, I'll be sharing the link in the chat shortly. So what is the Data Cloud Consultant certification? Who is this for, and what is covered in the certification? We will look at a high-level overview. This is for anyone who has 2 or more years experience implementing and working with data strategy and data modeling. One should have experience implementing and consulting on data platforms in a customer-facing role. It can include designing, configuring, and architecting solutions. And it's for them, for those who wants to demonstrate their competence with the data cloud knowledge, and anybody who wants to prove their expertise can pursue this certification. So it has 60 questions, and the passing score is 62%, which means around 37 questions is the pass percentage, passing score. The time is 105 minutes, and like other certifications, it is the registration fee is $200 and the retake fee is $100 with any taxes as applicable. And the prerequisite for this one is there's nothing. So you can just start take the certification if you feel you're ready to take the certification. So the topics covered in this certification are starting with the solution overview. This is around like 18%, which takes 11 questions on the exam. The data cloud setup and administration, 12%, maybe around 8 or 7 questions. Data modeling and ingestion, 20%. Identity resolution, segmentation and insights, act on data. So these all take a major chunk, like 18%, 20%. So we will be covering in depth all these topics. So we have allocated 2 sessions for covering the solution overview, setup and administration, 2 sessions, ingestion on modeling, 2 sessions. So we have almost for all of these topics, we have 2 sessions scheduled. So you can learn in depth of all the concepts. So what's covered in each session? The solution overview, which is like 18%, it will cover what is data cloud, the typical use cases, and the terminology, the life cycle, and the ethics and principles. And setup and administration is all about the permissions, the settings, configuration, the data spaces, it's all the configuration items that are covered. And in the ingestion and modeling, we will look at how data can be ingested into the data cloud and how do we map, what is the data model, best practices, and so on. Identity resolution is creating a unique profile. So we will look at the reconciliation rules, the matching rules, and the use cases. Segmentation and insights, how do we segment, how do we maintain the segments, how do we create, and different use cases, and the difference between the calculated and the streaming insights. And the last part is the data activation, how the integrations work, how can we use the data in the sales data in the data cloud to other clouds. So this is all about the certification, and here are a few resources which will be helpful for you to get started. My favorite place is the Trailhead. So that's where I start whenever I start to learn something new. And if you are interested further, Trailhead Academy, it's a great course on the data cloud. And if you are part of a partner org, you would have access to the PLC, Partner Learning Camp, wherein there is a great course on the data cloud. So you can follow these. And external, there is a Udemy, there is a course for the data cloud consultant, and the Salesforce help document, the official study guide, which is available on the Trailhead. These are all the go-to places to get started and to learn further. And there is a wonderful series on the YouTube. So there is a lot of great content. You can check this playlist to get more in-depth knowledge on the data cloud. So here are some useful links for you to get started and get going. So as we go through these sessions, I know you're all excited, and as we spend some time to attend these sessions, I would highly recommend you to also schedule some more time, maybe 1 hour each day, to go through all these learning materials or rewatch the sessions and learn further, access all the resources, and work on the certification or work on adding more skills. So try to attend all the sessions live. So that gives the motivation, and that also helps in sticking to the schedule. And we will be sharing the homeworks. Even if not, there's no homework, you will find the resources section. Just like we have this previous section, you can go through all these resources. And after each session, we will include the resources. So try to go through all the resources section and all the additional information shared. And we'll also make sure that the presentations and the recordings are shared at the earliest possible. So you will have the ability to go back and rewatch the sessions and go through the material. And if you are planning to take the certification in the next few months, you can form a study group. So the Slack channel is open for you, whoever is interested. You can form a study group and you can collaborate there, and you can have some other sessions to discuss, and any questions you can come back or fill the Ask Me Anything panel form. So those are all the tips I would like to share. So wishing you all the good luck. So thank you again for showing your passion to learn. So Gilda, I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you, JB. I also wanted to take 1 minute just to go over some house rules. There's been some really great questions already populating in the chat. So just a friendly reminder, the primary channel that all presenters will use to communicate with attendees is Slack. And I've pasted the Slack channel in the meeting, in the chat window for everyone to access. So please be sure you guys click on the link, scroll up if you're not seeing it, but it is pasted in there. Secondly, this deck will be available in the Slack channel, and this session that's being recorded will be available on the YouTube. All this information will be posted in the Slack channel. So I strongly encourage everyone to please get access to the Slack channel. That way you're able to communicate with every single presenter, not just this session, but all future sessions as well. In addition to that, you're more than welcome to link up with any of us on LinkedIn or Twitter. So what I wanted to do is to really set the tone on why Data Cloud. So I've been with Salesforce for about 3.5 years, but prior to Salesforce, I worked at a lot of large organizations, such as Aetna or CVS, Johnson & Johnson. I've worked at consulting companies, doing a lot of implementation, onboarding, education, and you name it. Next slide, JB. And the one before that. And I can tell you that some of these large organizations that I worked with, their biggest issue was connecting all of their data. It wasn't easy. In fact, the average company has 1,026 different applications, right? That's 1,026 applications being used to track and store bits and pieces of customer data. This can be web, mobile engagement data, machine learning data, data in external data lakes and warehouses, CRM, and so much more. And I've heard that customers also approach these in various ways on how do they manage their data. Not only that, IT teams, marketing teams, implementation teams are spending countless hours building and maintaining these custom point-to-point integrations, and a lot of times it's time-consuming. There's data at risk, and there's a lack to build in any sort of governance or security. So this is why when you look at Data Cloud and all the sessions and stuff that you're about to learn, keep that in mind, because these are real issues happening to large, small, medium-sized organizations. The question of how do we bring together all of this customer data at scale is one that is critical, not for us here at Salesforce, but also should be critical and top of mind for all of you. Next slide, JB. So the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear from several presenters. And in addition to that, learning from all of these amazing presenters that have lined up to discuss with you Data Cloud, we also want you to do learning on your own. And this slide will also be available for you. So if you're taking pictures, you can stop, because we're going to make all of this available in the Slack channel. We also want you to visit Trailhead, Trailblazer community. There's coaching, the Ask the Expert hours, and additional resources. So as you're learning every single night when you attend these, please also learn these additional modules on your own. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Vlad, so you can take it away. We have 300+ people that are eager to learn. And please feel free to post your questions in the chat, and we will do our best to answer the questions.
All right, sounds good. Thank you very much, both JB and Gilda, for the introduction and the start. And once again, welcome everybody. We are starting with the Data Cloud overview. as probably everyone else on the line, I just want to once again express the gratitude for an opportunity to be here in front of you, sharing up all the excitement, all the inspiration about the data cloud. You know, for me, it was a big change coming up from marketing cloud background and transitioning into data cloud, but it was quite a successful journey and quite interesting, and helped me to advance some of the technical aspirations of my career. And hopefully that we will do the same for you. So, you know, besides the certification, I would encourage you to remind yourself that the goal of these bootcamps is supposed to be learning more than anything else. So we're here to get you started, get you introduced to the product, get you excited and inspired. For today, the intention between me and my friend Minendra, we kind of do the walkthrough overall features of the platform, help you understand where it fits. The assumption we're taking is that we're coming up completely new. So if you've heard something, if you didn't hear anything, it doesn't really matter, because we'll try to set the stage from the point of we're just introducing into the product, and we'll cover up all the key critical aspects of the platform capabilities for you today. We're not going to deep dive into any specific area enough, because as you've seen, there's plenty of other sessions coming up. We're not going to steal a thunder from other presenters, and we'll give them a chance to really give justice to every single topic, because there's plenty of things to cover. We do want to show you a bit of a platform demo today as well. Besides the slides that I will try to make sure not to bore you down, but besides all of that, we do want to do a bit of a walkthrough, give you a bit of a feel of the platform, and I guess the first level introduction to how it looks like and how it feels. I will close up with recommended skills and learning options, some of the things that we will share, as JB mentioned later in the Slack channel, but a couple of points to start specifically with this area, with overview and understanding the data cloud. And the skills that we've got is mainly kind of like consolidation of some of the key points to see whether or not it's something that you already possess or something that you need to kind of strive to build up within yourself. And we'll have some time for Q&A. So without any further ado, we'll keep the lawyers happy to remind everyone that there could be topics that we will talk today and beyond today's session throughout the bootcamp. That's going to be a forward-looking statement. You know, data cloud is one of the most one of the fastest innovative products within Salesforce, and organically innovative, which is fantastic, but it brings up a whole lot of plethora of innovations and features and functions that they can transcend to us from between the releases. Every release brings up a wealth of new features, functionality, and therefore if we do talk about something that is not generally available today, we will highlight that. But for you, from your perspective of you being a customer or you being a partner, or you just being a trailblazer who just learning about these things, just make sure that you always make any purchasing investment decisions based on the generally available products and services. And therefore, this statement is to kind of highlighting all the potential associated risk. And if you need to read more, you can always find more details in our investor website. All right. Talking about data cloud, I did want to add an extra, spinner in the wheels here. Is when we talk about data cloud, that was kind of like a big drive for us at the start of the last year, and I guess even before that. But really, the big shift came through somewhat mid-year for me, where we start sort of transitioning at the company level from not just looking at the data, but actually extending that and kind of coming up into AI. And interesting observation is that the AI revolution that we're seeing is really driven by the data revolution. We have so much information. We've got so many different applications, as Guilda mentioned, wealth of details and data stored across varieties of different systems, that now all of that details need to be accessed in order to produce reasonable, useful, and practical outcomes, safe and trusted without hallucinations through AI. And therefore, when you learn data cloud, don't think that this is just a standalone product that you're going to learn a new software tool. This is really a foundation of where the platform goes, what you can do in the future. And it really, in my opinion, advances the skills of every single individual for the future, because without data, there'll be no AI, because we're not going to be able to do any good learning and any good decision making through the artificial intelligence. As we've been looking into company from the impact on the organization, we've seen that companies that are data driven, that truly outperform their competition. But what does it mean? It's really difficult to maybe simply constrain. What does it mean that you're a data driven company? Well, we've got data that we collect across different sources. Are we a data driven company? We like to think that this ability to get access within your organization to the right data at the right time so that you can unlock insights, make informative decisions, and really action on the data. So therefore, when you start looking into all of these different examples of the functionality, specific use cases that Arvin's going to cover in some of the upcoming sessions in this bootcamp, keep yourself reminded on the fact that when we look at the data, we're not just looking at collecting it, we're not looking at storing it, we're looking at how do we make it actionable within the Salesforce ecosystem and beyond, so that as a business, you can really drive some value through insights, as I said, and really power up some of the business decisions. As you can see, some of the examples of our existing customers who've innovated and pioneered with us when we start sort of broadly implementing Data Cloud and fitting it into technology stack. And I'll talk about some of the examples later in this presentation. What's interesting for me when we talk about today data management at the enterprise level, there's kind of different pillars or tenet of the what does it make that enterprise level data management capability. So we're looking at the 5 aspects of that when we're starting with velocity, which is really talking about ability to ingest magnitude of information at speed, at scale. Then we'll look at that variety of data that is really coming up to different models. We've got different ways of expressing the exact same attributes, whether it's a first name, email address, phone numbers. They're simple. It sounds like why would be a challenge with that? But there's plenty different ways of connotating and expressing that. And therefore, once we start talking across different systems, then that becomes a real challenge. Veracity is the capacity to use direct and advanced matching. So when we start looking at the individuals and people profile behind all of that information, it becomes really difficult. And I'm sure you've been in Salesforce ecosystem hopefully long enough to realize that one of the biggest challenges that we're still trying to solve today is look at identifying an individual behind all of these various data points. So we want to be able to say, hey, this is Vlad, and this is all the information we know about him. But when you look at the system level view, you've got different profiles. So it could be coming up from CRM, from ERP, from HR system, from marketing system, and they could vary. So being able to kind of unify that and recognize people, it's one of the complexities. Volume, it's something that has been sort of spiking up, I think, over the last few years, every year. And it was surprising to me when I was kind of preparing for some of the recent presentations, just looking into some of the older slides that we were presenting in the last few years in terms of what are the different volumes, like how many data sources within the organization you would have, how many different systems we would normally connect, how many records in terms of millions and billions and trillions. Like the numbers just seem to be continuously growing up. So that is a huge problem for organizations. How do we solve it at enterprise level? And it really comes down to all these different points, from collecting, processing, and making it available to be accessed. And of course, value is the last point, is the ability to connect that all of that information that you have to different systems. So you empower decisions, you empower actions, and you really drive all these different aspects of business application and business use cases. I will not dive into that too much because Guilda did a really good job of explaining that, but keep in mind that there's, as we spoke about it, plenty of different data sources, plenty of different applications. And the challenge that we see is essentially roughly like 70% of these different applications and data points are still disconnected. So if you look at like marketing department, we solve the challenge of how do we get marketers the data that they can use for marketing activities. If you look at CRM, we've got data that can power sales and service. You've got commerce systems, you've got, I mentioned ERP, HR, but they're most of the time, not all of them, really connected together well, in the sense that they all cohesively working together, the data flows in and out, and each and every data point informs every other system and decision that kind of happens across the line. So that's challenging. And as I mentioned before, is most of the brands that we still see today and kind of helping to work through all the different challenges and all the different systems, they're really trying to still build that, what we call a single source of truth, or the single customer profile. We do have these different lenses, as I refer to them, and different dimensions and points of view on what the single customer view looks like from different systems. But reality is it's still very isolated and sometimes disconnected from the rest of the organization. So we want to see can we solve that specific problem? Can we address all of these different challenges with something that is native and natural to Salesforce going forward? And this is where Data Cloud comes into play. This is our hyperscale data platform that is really built natively, organically built into Salesforce. You have an options to connect, federate, and harmonize all of your data from any product and system right within Salesforce environment. So that gives you an opportunity to empower your teams across different domains to access a single true view of every individual customer within your company. It's great because this information now sits within Salesforce ecosystem. So straight away you can think of trust, our number one company value. Therefore, something that we inherently built into the product. You can trust that storage, you can trust that information, you can trust that data is not going to travel and leave the platform without or potentially produce an exposure to something that you inadvertently don't want to see. And all of that information is available to the Salesforce ecosystem of products. So the entire portfolio was all of a sudden empowered to be able to operate with that information. So you've got an opportunity to look at the profiles of your customers. You've got an opportunity to embed all of that information into your flow of work, meaning that if you have a service interaction or service chatbot, you can feed the data from the Data Cloud into these interactions and really give the latest and greatest information about that individual throughout all of these business processes. You can see at the bottom left there are a few features that are just recently sort of announced, I guess, what's coming up, but it's an opportunity for us to extend the platform beyond just Data Cloud. As I said, we connect in different systems, we're bringing information, we're connecting all the dots, but we really are looking into an open and extensible platform as well. One of the, I do remember, advantages of Salesforce when I was learning it first was ability and opportunity to connect external systems. And Data Cloud has one of the design principles that was inheriting the same concept. We didn't want to look and restrict to data that only resides within Salesforce ecosystem of products or maybe some of the other products. Number of our customers made investment into modern data technologies like data warehouses and data lakes. We wanted to support the investment, and therefore, if you're one of these companies or individuals who have been working with these different tools, the good news is that we have an opportunity to connect that information, and without extracting the data and bringing it, like integrating it to sort of ingest and import into Data Cloud, we can actually share it out. So we can connect and bring up your data from different data lakes and data warehouses into Data Cloud, as well as share it out. So if you're looking into like Databricks and Snowflake as some of the examples, and some of the vendors are still in the works, but we are looking into really extending that part of the platform to ensure we provide varieties of connectors available natively within the product. In addition to that, when we talk about AI, as I mentioned before, ability to bring your own sort of models into Data Cloud is something that we reasonably recently released, but it's now GA, an opportunity for someone to stand up their intelligence, like business level decision points outside of the ecosystem, but still use it for empowering business decisions and connecting with the rest of the data points, is now available within the Data Cloud opportunities. If you're one of the marketers, you would be familiar with Advertising Studio and ability for us to interact with customers on a variety of social channels and advertise to them. We looked at part of the Data Cloud capabilities when you start acting on data is integration with first-party advertising platforms. So you're talking about Google or Meta or Amazon ads. We have ability to effectively publish segments and start your marketing campaigns within these platforms right away. And last but not least, ability to extend the platform is something that transcends into our App Exchange and our fantastic ISV partners who are looking into aiding data enrichment and other capabilities into the platform natively within our platforms. So you'll see more and more development in this area in the future. With regards to coming back into Salesforce world and where Data Cloud stands is really ability to provide impactful opportunities across the business. So whether you're driving sales, upsell and cross-sell, whether you're talking about automated marketing engagements, where you're looking into industry applications, whether like health or potentially finance or retail, all of these different products are now empowered through the native platform opportunity to be able to work with the data and share it out. So we've got native integration available for all our products to be able to construct a truly, as we spoke about, that source of truth of information within Data Cloud itself. When you look into I guess the positioning and overall, like how does it fit into the breadth of ecosystem? You hopefully have heard at the time of Dreamforce that we announced a bit of rebranding and renaming. So we talk about Salesforce platform as Einstein One platform that really connects the CRM, the data, and AI into one integrated, sort of platform component. But if you can see, the Data Cloud is something that kind of stands as one of the core pillars because it empowers up all the data, brings it all together, connects it, does the harmonization, unification, and then kind of plugs it further into business line of application. So you can start empowering all of these CRM applications or put it into the Einstein Trust layer and essentially start using it for predictive and generative AI functionality. It is part of the platform and really sits within that one stream. And I'd like to step through some of the sort of nitty-gritty details specifically around how it all works together. So very first thing, when you look at the Data Cloud altogether, is idea that you need to bring the information from varieties of different sources. And as I mentioned before, we've got connectors available to all our products. So within Salesforce ecosystem, you'll have no difficulty bringing, for example, Marketing Cloud data extensions into Data Cloud or looking into Salesforce standard and custom objects. That is totally cool and easy to work through. You can bring Commerce Cloud data. You can connect any other data sources outside of Salesforce through either file-based exchange. So if you think about cloud providers like Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage or Microsoft Azure, we do have ability to connect to these sources. We have an opportunity for you to bring the data through SFTP connection. That was one of the quite demanded and requested functionalities that was released sometime last year and really extended that option. But at the same time, there are other means and ways to do that. So when we start bringing up the conversation about real-time data exchange, we've got web and mobile SDK that really is one of the fastest ways to bring the data into the platform because you're connecting your interaction on the mobile application or through the intelligent web applications and feeding the data straight into the Data Cloud. We've got API that you can use to ingest the data. And if you need an abstraction layer from all of these technicalities and nitty-gritties, and you still have maybe some other systems that you want to connect to, we've got fantastic connectors opportunities through MuleSoft. So you've got varieties of different options, how the data can make it into the platform. There is a distinction between different methods. So you'll find that there will be streaming methods and ways to ingest the data, as well as more or less batched way to bring and ingest the data. And I believe Elliot will cover all of these different distinctions and details when he talks about data ingestion. Once the data makes it into the platform, there's one more step before we get into other stages and processes. There's an opportunity for you to even transform the data. So if you talk about data integrations, traditional sort of workflow can include like extract, transform, load, or extract, load, transform. So there's a bit of two different sequences, but in a sense, we provide an opportunity for you not to just ingest the data from different sources, but apply some transformation. So whether you need to, let's say, transpose the table from one row of information into 3 different rows, or the other way around. Maybe you need to consolidate multiple data points into one single row of data. These are some of the very simple examples of the things that you can do. If you need to apply some filtering, if you need to apply some cleansing as you load the data into the platform or one step after the loading, then you do have different options. And when we talk about that ingestion and processing, you will learn and hear about the different means and methods to do the data transformation. So once the data is ready to go in terms of we ingest it into the platform, the next step for us is what we call harmonization. So we've got a very well-defined, standardized Customer 360 data model. We looked into application of our customers, like using our Salesforce data model, standard like contact, leads, accounts, opportunities, campaigns, you name it. We looked into marketing, taxonomy and objects. We look at the commerce and so forth. And we consolidated what we call a reference data model behind the scenes within Salesforce ecosystem. And the aim and ambition of that Customer 360 data model is start expressing all the different data entities. Think about them as like tables or objects that you work with that will represent different pieces of information, and we standardize the expression for you. So when you start implementing Data Cloud, you essentially don't have to start from scratch. We have a as I said, very, very well designed and defined data model that you start connecting to. And the great piece and the great use of that data model is you essentially think of that as almost being like Rosetta Stone, where you have different systems, like Marketing Cloud, an example. You've got contact, subscriber, then you go into commerce, there is a customer, then you go into Salesforce CRM, you've got lead and account and contact. Like, how do you connect all of these different entities with slightly different expression of the exact same attribute into one standardized view? And that's exactly what that kind of like Rosetta Stone translation happens when you take your data and connect it into the standardized data model within Data Cloud. That's the objective. So we've got a set of attributes. You can extend that. You can add your own custom objects. You can add your own custom attributes. But really the key value is that you start from a pretty good jumpstart, from a really solid foundation. And because it's standardized, it means that going from one implementation to another, if you're in consulting firms, or learning about that, if you are one of the customers and you use Salesforce CRM or Marketing Cloud or any other product within our ecosystem, will make it easy for you, because some of these, if not all of these entities, should be familiar. And therefore, all you do is just look at that and go, oh yeah, I can see there's an individual, which is a representation of the person. There is a loyalty member, which is representation of the person who is enrolled into loyalty program, and so forth. And as I said, there are a few other examples to do that. But once we connect all of the data, we then start looking into unification, because we have all the attributes standardized, we expressed all the data, we kind of described it, and now we engage into the process that we call identity resolution. But really what it does, it's unification of individuals behind all these different data points. So we start building that view. Remember that one individual, multiple different channel identifiers that we call contact point. So if you've got a Twitter handle or 2 different emails or 3 mobile numbers and so forth, all of that information now comes into the system, and the system says, okay, instead of having 5 different profiles for Vlad, I know that there is one individual behind that. Here you go. So here's one Vlad. Here's 5 different profiles that related to that person, and then all the other data that was related and connected to all the other entities becomes kind of connected too. And there you go. You've got your single source of truth. You see people. You can now work with individuals across the entire database, regardless of the source of origin of all of that information. And that takes me to that last point where, as I said, the action or activation, there's probably different sort of interchanging meanings, but ultimately we're acting on data. If you looking into deriving some insights, you have an opportunity to build calculated insights, so that will really take your standardized data model, a notion of unified people, and now connect them together to look and say lifetime value calculations, or what is your true engagements across different channels. So we can build the score, we can build reflective view of how much you transact with a different business, and transact doesn't mean necessarily just a dollar amount. It could be how many engagements you've got, how many cases you raised, how often you do that. All of that information is now consolidated and available to other applications. So if you start segmenting people for marketing purposes, sending marketing campaigns and adding them into journeys, personalizing their web and mobile experience when they browse, user interfaces. Like if you want to trigger a business process in the flow within Salesforce CRM. I mean, these are just few items that you can do. Extend that to ability to use that information, as we spoke about, within AI. So grounding the model, we provide information that is relevant, that is up to date, and we ground it. So staying all of that generative capability within the data that is available within your organization. If you look into other options, if you visualize it, if you want to make some business intelligence activation, if you want to look into empowering your business decisions, then you can take that information and right away use it within either Tableau or CRMA or even marketing intelligence. Like all of these products is natively connected, so they can straight away use all that power, all that information to drive your business decisions and really visualize your data at the company level. So here's the play. You've got, as just repeating myself, you've got all the different data points, you connect them at scale, you bring them all in, you transform the data if you need to, and then you harmonize it, connect into one standardized data model. Once the harmonization is done, we go into unification. So we run the identity resolution, we recognize individuals and or accounts, if you more or less in a B2B context. And then we use all of that data to take some actions. That's really the flow. That's what the data cloud does at scale, and that's what it was designed for from the perspective of usability. Now, few customer examples, and without diving too much into them, what was interesting to learn for me was like the Inter specifically is digital banking services. They provide digital banking services in Brazil, and they were one of our early adopting customers. So they started sometime in 2022, I believe. So it's been a while, and it was at the time when we were just mainly focusing on marketing use cases. But even then, interesting to observe the outcomes of the implementation. So the challenge was more or less the same. They've got plenty of different data points that needed to be connected. So they had Sales and Service Cloud, they have Marketing Cloud, they have some data coming up from, I think, Amazon S3, and they definitely use application and web SDK. So they connected their mobile and web experiences into the platform. There were more than 100 data streams that were coming in with more than 10 billion worth of data. So imagine scale straight away. It's a very different power play right now. Then unification running across all of these different information, building up that single customer view. So we're recognizing people that come from sales and service, marketing, other systems, bringing them together and start identifying these people. And then once we've done that, we go up into additional insights. So we start looking into creating scores, affinities with product, so they can straight away plug that information into segmentation. And as we're going to do the show today, you will see how easy it is to use all of that information in the segmentation canvas. It's a really friendly drag and drop interface. So once that information is done, once the segment is built, pushing them into Marketing Cloud, send relevant communications to the customers through the Journey Builder. I mean, that's a fantastic story. Great use case, worked well. Yes, there were some challenges and whatnot, but it's all ultimately negligible, because at the end of the day, all of that was done at the time when the product was building up, adding more functionality, and the still customers derived quite a lot of outcomes. If you look into interesting point, besides just 20 more ROI, the return of the investment on the campaigns, because they were able to utilize all of that additional insights, it's just the improvement on releasing some of the time for every team member within the company. So they've got almost 1.5 hours per week back for every individual, because they don't have to do a lot of manual tasks across different systems. They're consolidating some of their activities within the campaign space and brought them into the data cloud, making it easy for them to do that. Now, another implementation that was a bit interesting, and the reason I bring this one up is the Kia Connect is a subscription-free OEM infotainment and telematics service that is offered by Kia Motors America on some of the vehicles. So what was interesting in their case, they've got a similar kind of storyline in the sense that they've got data that needs to be connected. So they've got smart vehicles, they've got information about their sort of use and sort of how it personal vehicle data and even like charging data for electric vehicles comes together. They needed to unify, harmonize that, and build some of the segments to run personalized campaigns. But the interesting point was that they utilize specifically Tableau for deep analysis and visualize some of the trends in terms of how the new vehicles are being used, and some of the features within the vehicles have been used. So example that I did make a note of, like to share with you, is like an example is driving with windows down. So if the machine picks up the fact that you've got windows down as you drive, then there could be one of the prompts to say, we would encourage you to put them up if you want to save on fuel. So that's just like the depth of that analysis that was empowered through that, in my opinion, is just unprecedented, at least for me. That's not something I faced in my lifetime beforehand. They did use different items in terms of different products within the Salesforce portfolio. So they as well had like communities connected to that. You've got mobile application, you've got Data Cloud and Marketing Cloud. But the other thing is, it took 3 months to implement their first use case. One of the biggest fear factors and one of the challenges with adoption, as I see sometimes, is just discussing like Data Cloud is hard. It's super difficult. We've got so many things in our system and our enterprise that it's going to take us like years to implement that. Reality is that there is an opportunity for every business to get going pretty fast. Yes, there is a process to follow. Yes, there is a specific methodology that you'll have to kind of apply and use. But nonetheless, if you're smart, if you're building a plan, if you're driving your roadmap, and if you're interested to do that, then there is an opportunity to define use cases that you can pioneer with. And with some of the offerings for our customers where Data Cloud can be provided free of cost, that could take up to 3 months and get going with the very first or 2 use cases. And then once it sort of starts going and you are in the tool, you're using that, you're adopting that, then you can go up and have a more interesting conversation around investing into that capability within your broader business. Bring other stakeholders to the play, show them how easy it is to use and what is the power and what are the use cases you can unlock within your enterprise. So it's more of a, I guess, takeaway. Okay, few more points technically, sort of like something to be aware of and kind of keep an eye on. If you are interested in learning a bit more from the technical perspective, there are quite a few details around varieties of different features within the platform itself. So I took that diagram from the Salesforce Architects website. It's freely available. Everyone can go and have a look at that and download if you want to, or explore it. The idea is because it's a different storage from the data perspective, because one of the common questions people get asked is like, is it the same, or are you replacing storage in Salesforce CRM with Data Cloud now? And sometimes, yeah, it's easy enough to get confused. The way we talking about that the data is now available to all the Salesforce products, it gets very easy to kind of get lost and go, it's like, oh yeah, sounds like you effectively just took a whole new storage layer and replaced your previously available transactional database. That's not the case. So we build Data Cloud as an additional storage layer to the Salesforce platform. And what you will find it as we go through the other sessions in the bootcamp, we'll talk about that through setup session, we'll talk about that through potentially data ingestion and modeling. Basically, Data Cloud has 2 components. There is a on-core component, that's your traditional Salesforce platform, the experience as you will see today, as Minendra will show you shortly, how it looks and feels. And then there's an off-core storage. That is really that Hyperlake architecture. That's something that's new, and it's in addition to what we still have in Salesforce CRM platform. So even though you will see it's the same user experience, it's very easy to kind of start thinking that, hey, it's all one and the same per se. From the user interface, that's exactly how I wanted to make it feel. It shouldn't really matter per se for users whether you're storing it on core, off core, in the lake, in the transactional database. Practically, you kind of need to understand how to use it. But for people who are responsible to design the solution for configuring that, they just need to understand that difference. And quite often it's good to think about like, what are the different use cases and where do you store what effectively and how do you operate with it? And this slide just gives you like a very high level summary of that, but like there's significantly more. And as you go through the bootcamp, hopefully that will start building up an understanding, because you'll learn about, the entities like data stream objects, data lake objects, data model objects, and then you will contrast them towards the S objects and big objects, potentially the ones that sit in traditional Salesforce CRM space. But you will see that in general, Data Cloud is very, very good and was designed and built for high volumes of data. We ingesting at scale, we're processing at scale. There are completely different technologies that are implemented behind the scenes in order to support that promise, that we want to go up and say, we can consume enormous amount of data, we can process that, we can consume it and make it available for action, as I said. That's really what it is. And I love that summary. It's like, it's a highway for data, allowing for high throughput and volume. That's really what it is. Within the CRM, though, you're looking into how do you work with user interface? How do you search for it? How do you work with them? Because the way and methods to update the information, to feed the information are two different things. And that's something that you will learn as you go and start configuring the platform or observing us doing that. One last technical component is data residency. It's something to keep in mind because Data Cloud was built on Hyperforce pretty much from day one. Therefore, we make it available in our public cloud infrastructure. And today you've got a few different options where it can be hosted. You can refer to that knowledge base article at any point in time. Ultimately, you've got North America, you've got Germany for Europe, there is Australia, Japan, and India. That's 5 ports that we have available today. If you reside in any other country and you would love to have the data to be residing in the same space, even though some of the Salesforce CRM can be provisioned into more native local countries, it's still not the case with Hyperforce. So when you're making any decisions, when you're thinking and considering whether it's for yourself as a customer or for your customers, if you're implementing it for someone, then always make sure you understand that where the data are going to be located at the time of implementation. So check with availability because this and next years have a pretty significant roadmap in terms of for us as a company to make more ports available across the world. But it takes time and of course budget. Therefore, always refer to like what is the latest availability. And if you're not sure, always talk to us. We'll help you understand that and figure out the best solution for your customers or for yourself. All right. Now it's time for me to hand over to my friend Minendra, and he will do a platform walkthrough with you. So Minendra, are you on the line?
Hey, Vlad, thank you so much for this
All right.
sensational session. So let me take it away from here. Hello, everybody. So again, a gratitude from my side here, and thank you all for allowing me this opportunity here. And I'm thrilled to be part of this presentation. And I'm sure you all are excited to see the platform overview and the capabilities, some of the capabilities in next 10 to 15 minutes, which I will just touch upon a really, really high level. So let's dive in straight into the platform. And this is the homepage of the Data Cloud platform. Data Cloud is built on Salesforce Lightning platform. And if you are already a Salesforce user and you're already familiar, then you can see this clean and intuitive interface. So on the summary tab on the top here, what you can see is there's 187 data points. This is what we call data streams in the Data Cloud. This is basically the avenue where you can bring in the data from different sources, different platforms, different products, and how you want to bring into the Data Cloud. Another one where you can see the segmentation, where it's a 1723 segmentation. This is a demo shared platform, and a lot of the users are actually doing the experimentation and testing as we're speaking right now. And there's a 28 activation. What this means is it's actually sending the data, the segments or the customers out to other platform or other products as we are speaking here. So this is actually activating. It could be Marketing Cloud, it could be CRM or any other external sources as well. So if we scroll through the platform here, so you would be able to see the data streams and different stats a little bit deeper on the summary side, and there's the segments as well and activations on the different tabs as well. So since we're here on the data stream tab, let's look into the data stream. So this is where all of the data stream is in one place. So you can see the data stream status, when it was last refreshed, and what is the total records of count in the data stream. So without diving too much into it, so if you just scroll down, then you'll be able to figure out where are these data coming from? So for example, like these are the loyalty data. And if you scroll through down here, then you'll see some of the marketing clouds data coming in through. So it's all in one single place here. So let me go and click the new button here to see, configure the data stream here. And this is where you'll be learning more in the bootcamps. So I'll definitely encourage, of course, to come back and have a deep dive into this data ingestion session. But let me just give you a really quickly on high level, like, you know, like the connectors, how you are going to bring in the data into the data cloud platform. So we've got a variety of data sources that you can bring the data into data cloud platform. All of these marketing cloud, CRM, commerce cloud, or any other Salesforce product are natively connected to the data cloud. What this means is without further integration or without further configuration, you'll be able to seamlessly bring the data into the data cloud from any Salesforce platform. We do also provide opportunity for any other data storage, external data storage like Amazon S3 or Google Cloud Storage, or even SFTP secure, you know, like you can bring in the data from the SFTPs. And also we do also support mobile app or ingestion API. So I definitely encourage you to come back and join this session to see how the data is being stored, what are the configuration required, and how you can bring in the data into data cloud. So let's just go in here and take a look at one of the data streams. So I'm going to go to the loyalty management here. And here, what you can see is you can see the different attributes, field labels, API names, and some of them are formula fields and some of them are not. So there are a lot of like different data types here. Some of them are text data types. These all are within the data streams. So when you bring in the data from the external source and you would like to understand how you actually bring in the data and how it's being positioned into the data cloud, how it is been, you know, like sitting to make any sense out of it. So in order to achieve that, we need to do is what we call is the data mapping exercise. So what it's doing right now here is, if you take a look into the left side here where the loyalty management is, this is just a simple data stream coming into the platform. So from here, we are actually breaking this data into the multiple different objects within the data model. So you can literally, like, it's very intuitive on mapping as well, like where you can drag and connect with the attributes or the objects within the objects in the data model. You'll definitely we'll come back to the session. I'm looking at like smiling here and saying like, you know, like you definitely want to be part of this bootcamp of this session to come back in order to be successful, because when you bring in the data, you want to understand what are the data you required, where do you want to map it. It's very, very critical for you to be successful. So I would definitely encourage you to come back into this session as well. Now, this is the data model, and everything in the Salesforce, every object is interconnected. So if you take a look into the individual object, then it will be connected to the contact point email or any other object. So these are all connected to each other. Once we then harmonize into the standardized language library, and then we start adding to the actions, that's where we start segment and run activation and provoking any sort of like events or any activations within the other platforms or any other marketing tools within Salesforce or external source. After the modeling process, then we proceed to unifications, which we call here in data cloud language is identity resolution. So based on the matching rules required by the business, so this could be business rules here, and you would have it will be required as the business will be required for different match rules, and it will be helped to do the identity resolution, which is unification of the customer resource profiles and identifying the unified profiles based on that. So if you take a look in here in the summary snapshot here, then there's a 64 million source profile. Out of that, there's only 29.9 million unified profiles. So it also gives you the consolidation rates and match source profiles and non-unified profiles. So based on this, like you definitely want to consider is like, like looking at your data and having this kind of level of information about your customers, then you definitely want to consider adding or like expanding your data points, the data strategy or something along those lines. So calculated insights is another one like where it allows you to define and calculate the multi-dimensional metrics. And you can schedule this as well. So when you schedule this, you can bring immense of benefit to the system. So now that we have brought in the customers from different sources, we've done the modeling, we've done the identity resolution. Let's just take a look at one of the customer here and how the system, how the data looks like for a profile. So this is the unified profile of a single customer. So where it has a unified individual IDs, and it has also a lifetime value. It has a loyalty profiles, customer profiles, preferences, status of the opt-in, opt-out, and recent orders. You can even visualize how many segments this customer is being part of. So all of these are in the single view that you will be able to look into about a single customer into one single page as well. So talking about the segment, I would like to take another, a couple of minutes here to walk you through how easy to create the segment within the data cloud. So I, as a user, no longer need to go into SQL, or I don't have to write the complex queries looking into multiple different objects, but let's just have a look at it like how easy is it to create the segment. So I'm going to the segment here and try to show you a little bit of demo here, and I'll go to use a visual builder and I'll do the batch segment here. We do have options for others, but like I'll do the data space here. I'll just select an NTO global and segment on. There's a various different ways how you can do the segments, but I'm going to go through the individual now. I'll just do as test demo 1. And we do have an option to standard publish or the rapid publish. And when you also have an option here to don't refresh, where you can do it manually, or you can set it up to 12 hours, 24 hours. So once you do save the segment, which I'm not going to do it now, but like when you come to the different page where you will see the left-hand side is the direct attribute and the related attribute. And all of the data mappings has been done, data modeling has been done, and then now it's all available here as a drag and drop for a user to use it. So if you expand to it, then these are all the attributes that you can literally drag and drop it. So this is the segment which I have created for yourself to have a look here, where it's talking about different various things, which I will explain. And let me just show you like how easy is it to add any other attributes into the segment as well. So I'm just going to add one more interest here. The customer who was biking and camping probably has an interest in hiking as well. And you can also select the operator, like how you want to use it. Is it and or? So you can switch between and or. So there is a 20,000 records out of 29 million record population. So I just added the hiking as just now. Then let me just save this one. And so it actually is calculating as we are speaking. So this segment is what it's doing right now is it's actually going to the loyalty member and who has a click rate equals to 1 and who is interested in hiking, camping, or biking. It's one or another because it's an or statement in here. So it's literally drag and drop for any of the attribute. And once I save it, it actually gave us the count because it was 20,000 before. So it added another 9 to 10,000. So as a customer who are actually interested in the hiking as well as meeting other criteria. So this is very simple and very intuitive ways to create the segments here. So once you create a segment now, then you want to activate the segment. So you want to send it out to the marketing cloud or CRM or any other platforms, any other external platform to be able to do marketing campaigns or any different campaigns or any way you want to reach out to the customers. Then this is where you will come to activation and then create the activation. And then from here, you send it out to the other channels. So now let me take a pause here and go back. So we brought in the data via the data stream, and then we did the data model, we did the identity resolution, and we looked at the segments, we created the segment, we activated the segment, and we've sent it out to other channels, right? So now that you would like to visualize all the things, how it actually came together, how was your marketing campaigns and ROIs. So as I mentioned before, as other platforms are connected to Data Cloud, the Salesforce products are natively connected. We can also connect to the variety of the analytics tool like here, CRMA, Tableau, Marketing Cloud Intelligence. And here, like I come from the Marketing Cloud Intelligence, Marketing Cloud domain. So let me just touch up on the Marketing Cloud Intelligence because this is the product that I always work with a lot of customers and I really feel comfortable with. So this is natively integrated with the Data Cloud, and we can visualize it and we can look at multiple different things here about what is the send between the channels, WhatsApp, SMS, emails. And if you want to have a look at the Einstein Marketing Insights, what are the top performance assets, web traffic by the reason, you can all have a look at it like by the reasons. And there's lots of things that you can do with the marketing analytics. And the interesting thing is about you don't need to reconfigure it again. So all you need to do, it actually connects to the Data Cloud. So it just need to set up the dashboard that the way you want to visualize it and the way it works for the business. So let me take a pause in there. Let me actually do a logical stop here and see if we jump back to the questions and see like if there are any that we can answer. And probably this gives you a little bit of teaser. Like I wouldn't be able to cover more on this limited time, but like I'm sure there's a follow-up session where you definitely want to come back and join on those sessions and continue. And I hope you enjoy these learnings with Data Cloud. With this,
thank you, Minendra. Yeah, sorry, thank you. No, that was good. Thanks for doing the demo. And yeah, as you righteously said, we don't necessarily want to go through everything in depth because there's quite a lot of different things and functions, but hopefully that was just more of a bit of a teaser for you to be interested to come back for the following sessions and kind of dive into that. We do have a number of good questions, but before jumping into them, let me just share with you a couple of more points. So when you going up and building up your skill set, some of the recommended sort of elements of the personas that we identified for Data Cloud expertise, they can include a few areas. So one is being familiar and kind of flexible working within the Salesforce CRM environment. As you can see, the interface, as Minendra mentioned, is just native Salesforce CRM. So if you've been using Salesforce platform, that's fantastic. You're pretty much done. If not, it's something that we would encourage you to go and learn. Doesn't have to be excessive, but at least you need to be able to configure your users, object permissions, be familiar with the flows if you want to take some actions and do some automations, and then comfortable of configuring the reports and dashboards. That's mainly where administrative functionality comes in. From other products, if you come from marketing or commerce or any other connecting product that you're going to be feeding information from and into, then you kind of need to have a similar administrative level knowledge. So being able to configure access for user, for permissions, know how the data is structured in these respective cloud environments, and understand how the data model is kind of expressing all these different entities as we spoke about, so that you can be connecting them into Data Cloud. And then if any other sort of party systems that need to be connected through cloud storage providers, it's something to learn. Most of the time, it's as simple as how do you upload information, how you secure your storage location, and ensure that you can configure relevant access permissions to the file location so that we can ingest that into Data Cloud. If you're a developer, there's a bit more around the Salesforce platform specifically. So having a platform developer certification is preferred. and recommended because you look into Lightning Web Components development, if you look into extending and augmenting some of the flow functionality, adding your custom Apex classes and whatnot. Like, these are all the things and functions that you will most likely need if you developing and or integrating outside of the standard integrated connectors within the platform. If you're doing data query and there was a question, can you write SQL? There are different places in the platform. So you might be querying the information to expose it in the external system. For profile view, consolidated profile view, maybe you need to share that information for another purposes. There is a few different means and ways to query that, but knowing SQL will help you. Calculated insights, some streaming insights, there are a few other options that you can apply knowledge of SQL, and they are not necessarily what do you call it, like a database specific. So you'll have to learn, you know, general principle, but you'll just need to know what functions do we provide within all of these different contexts. And of course, you know, knowing APIs. So understanding the Salesforce platform APIs, how to access that. More importantly, if you're thinking about use cases where you're integrating with the systems that handle, for example, permissions and preferences, if you need to utilize data you know, respect customer requests for data processing and storage and so forth. Majority of these endpoints are available through API, and therefore if you need to integrate these different systems and send signals to Data Cloud, you'll have to rely on your knowledge and expertise to build these integrations. And then for consultants, that's something that kind of goes up into that certification pathway. You'll need to understand what is the data strategy overall, how to design and model data within the environment, and how to facilitate the discovery. If you're talking to customers, it's something that you naturally know how to do, but there are specific aspects of how to do it for Data Cloud. So if you are one of our consulting partners, we do have good courses to help you upskilling on these items for sure. Be able to talk to customers around cross-platform identity strategy. One of the things within the Data Cloud is you will start kind of diving into the details. Besides just bringing the information into Data Cloud, you'll need to figure out, how do you build that resolution engine? How do you configure it? So understanding how identities are expressed, connected, and even collected across different touch points within the customer space, it's a pretty big skill. And then having ability to consult, to drive and lead these conversations is something that you'll have to develop if you don't have that skill today. And then some of the kind of things that kind of relate to questions that are coming through, being able to differentiate between like data warehouse solutions, MDM, data lakes, and what are the different functions, because we do have a talk for consultants around like difference with MDM. And, you know, a very simple teaser there, like MDM is not a solution, it's a strategy, and there are different methods and ways to implement MDM if you look into that. So Data Cloud is definitely not an MDM. It's not just a plain data lake. There's plenty of different pieces that sort of come together. And therefore being able to explain that, express that, and talk about that is something that you'll need to learn and build up in your skill set. And then from the learning perspective, getting started with a customer data platform, it's a step-by-step guide. I find it's useful if you're at the beginning of your journey, just to kind of understand how to get going. It's a sort of introductory guide which kind of walks you through different steps. Data Illustrated series, I believe JB has that linked in the resources section as well, but certainly will encourage you because there are a few more deep dives into different technical aspects and a few other that will be useful for your learning and certification journey. And then if you specifically looking into going up into that certification preparation, then use the trail mix. The materials that we built for consulting partners are now available in the trail mix, and therefore there's a section specifically for overview that has a bit more details towards what we spoke about today, and it will certainly help you to get better prepared for your certification journey. And with that, I'm gonna jump into questions and see, because I think we've got about 10 minutes or so. I wanted to highlight a couple of points that have been mentioned. Just want to bring them up in case if you didn't get a chance to read them. So number one is with regards to environments specifically. JB mentioned that we might figure out the ways later down the track, but today, if you're a customer, or if you're just a trailblazer who wants to learn, there is no trailhead org at this stage that you can just spin up and have Data Cloud embedded into that. We are working on that aspect within the product team, and this hopefully will become available soon, but I don't have a timeline and tell you when that's going to happen. If you're on the consulting partner or implementing partner or SI system integrator who is part of our ecosystem, you can access Partner Learning Camp. There is a place where you request demo orgs, and the same place you can request a learning org for 30 days to practice kind of configuring and implementing solutions on the Data Cloud. So that's number one. Number two, specifically for the fact that we've got connectors to different Salesforce products, and this is a very common question. Does it mean that with Data Cloud, we no longer need Marketing Cloud Connect for Marketing Cloud? And the answer is no, that's not the fact, because they serve two different purposes. From the Data Cloud perspective, you're synchronizing data from CRM, from Marketing Cloud, and you bring it into Data Cloud. You harmonize it, you unify that, and then for marketing purposes, you send a segment in order to activate and add people into journeys as a practical use case. Now, there could be much more information that you need within that particular flow in marketing, where you need to make some certain decisions, where you need to make some personalization and feed that information. You can either look into integrating data back and forth, or you can still use Marketing Cloud Connect if your data resides in Salesforce CRM to bring it in. There are other use cases like triggering the data related journeys from Salesforce. Remember, if you create or update record in Salesforce, you can trigger the journey in Marketing Cloud Journey Builder. Therefore, that's a very legit use case. If you want to update and propagate an action from the journey into Salesforce, that's still Marketing Cloud Connect. So there's enough of the scenarios where it's not the case that you need to forget about that, but you need to be more mindful of how you start building your data views and what is needed for marketing versus what is needed for bigger picture, because your data exchange between platforms can now change and will change. It will evolve naturally. The information that you need for certain use cases will be feeding into Marketing Cloud as well as into Data Cloud. There could be some pieces that will only go into Data Cloud, some pieces only to Marketing Cloud. So some of these distinctions that will be based on looking into bigger picture, understanding the use cases, and as we talk about integrating data ingestion, data modeling, and activations, you learn more and reasons why or why not. So stay with us and go through the series and you'll learn the answer to that natively. In terms of comparison to MDM, I did have a quick answer, but in general, with MDM solutions, most of the time you end up looking into survivorship mode. An example of that is I have 5 different profile records for me in varieties of different systems. And as the result of MDM processing, I will end up with one that represents all of them. In Data Cloud, we're building a reference model, meaning that we take all of these 5 profile records, we create a new one that says, okay, there's Vlad, and it links to all 5 profiles. We saving and persisting all of the other 5 source entities and records, and we keep reference and links in relationship to the source data. Therefore, it's a lossless ability to unify, but it doesn't really consolidate in traditional way that MDM does. And that's just a very high level guidance, because that talk around the differences can take at least an hour, and we can dive into that discussion for a very, very long time. So in regards to comparison, that's the last point I want to pick up, at least from these, is comparison to analytic and intelligent tools. There is kind of similar to discussion with MDM. There's a number of overlapping features in regards to what you can do in Data Cloud and you can do in CRM, analytics or Tableau or intelligence and any other BI and intelligence tools. The big difference, if you again look into full life cycle and scope of that, because if you look at the intelligence and analytics, you usually traditionally get the data in, you build your business rules, you express that, you visualize that, and then you kind of look into that. How do you act on that? So the action is informing business decisions. That's great. Now, if you need to apply the same principle, use the same information that you use for your visualization and intelligence into actions framework, for example, feed it into sales and service or marketing or commerce, then all of a sudden you kind of need to duplicate some of that work, because you again need to take the data, you need to consolidate that, and you might need a bit more information or a bit less. So the way we're looking into that is we're not taking away the entirety of business needs for visualization and intelligence products. What we're trying to look into is how do we do that data work once, so that you've got one system and then you connect your activities, whether you're consuming for actions, activations, where you're sending to advertising platforms and marketing platforms, or commerce, or using it within sales and service, versus using the exact same information and state of view into analytics and intelligence. And yes, you can access the source data, you can use intermediate data, you can use data model and like all the insights that you build, and you can slice and dice it differently, but at least you don't repeat and duplicate the work. It's done in one place. And, you know, in addition to these consumption, like a passive consumption, we do have means within Data Cloud to trigger actions. So when you learn about data actions and all the activity and activation framework, when it will be later down in the case, I think Matthew will be presenting that along with segmentation, you'll understand that we have more opportunities to propagate activity out of the data within the Data Cloud comparing to any of these different intelligence and visualization tools. So yes, there is a common functionality, but again, holistically, it's not one and the same, and it's not meant to replace everything. You can run reports in Data Cloud, but you're never going to get the exact same results if you run them in the Tableau, for example. It's a very, very different tools, and they're using and serving two different purposes. So hopefully that helps. I don't know if there is any one or two more questions that we can pick up from these. I think we talk about that the recording will be shared, the deck will be shared in Slack channels, and then with regards to all the other sessions. So one of the things I wanted to encourage you and remind you, this is just overview, right? We didn't want to steal the thunder from all other presenters down the line. There is a good series of sessions that are coming through in this bootcamp. So please come back, please join in, please make sure that you're part of all of these different sessions. And that's where you're gonna start building up a bit more understanding and competency around what's the data modeling looks like, what the data ingestion looks like, how does it all work, how do we connect the data points, and what is that data exchange that we were discussing high level today. Our aim and objective was to introduce you to the whole concept and structure, functional capabilities of the product, give you a bit of a teaser in the demo, and then really get you excited and inspired to come back. So with that, I think we're gonna stop, hand it over to JB to close off, and thank you very much for your time and attention.
Vlad, before we wrap up, can you just answer the question? Because there's been a lot of questions on here about a demo org or getting access to a sandbox. Can you just wrap that question up for our audience today?
Yeah, I think I did, but just reiterating that, if you're on the partner side, on the consulting implementer ISV partners, you need to go through the Partner Learning Camp under the Demo Orgs tab. There is a way you can procure that. If you're someone who is not a partner, whether you're customer, prospect, learner, trailblazer, someone who just want to learn something and build the skills, unfortunately, we don't have a sandbox / environment that you have Data Cloud in. We are working on that, like not we as in we as a group, but like product team are working on that with Trailhead. And hopefully soon enough, we'll see this coming up into your Trailhead environment options, where you can get the Trailhead instance and it will have Data Cloud. Today it's not the case, but I just don't have a roadmap to tell you when it's going to come. So if you need to follow practical stuff, that's one of the sessions towards the end of the bootcamp that JB was mentioning, that we kind of working out how this is all going to work and what we can do, because you might need to come and follow us to kind of see how it all works together, because we'll give you a kind of like a click-through experience, versus if the functionality will become available, then we will make sure that you have some guidelines to follow in order to do hands-on activities on your own. That's really the summary of all of that.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Because I know you had answered that earlier, but there's still some additional questions regarding that. So I just wanted to wrap it up with just that reminder.
Totally.
JB, I will pass it over to you.
Thank
to
you
wrap
so
us up.
much. Yeah, thank you so much, Guilda. Thank you so much, Vlad and Minendra. This is a great start to the bootcamp. All the content is wonderful. And as you mentioned, it's a high-level overview and very much needed for someone to get an understanding of what Data Cloud is. And it is like a primer for the next sessions that are coming up. So thanks everyone for joining, and then please, I will be sharing the presentation at the earliest possible. Please go through all the resources. The homework for today is go through all the resources and if possible, rewatch the session and go through the slide deck. And next session will be on Thursday, 9 p.m. Arvind will be the speaker for that session. We will continue with the solution overview next part. So if possible, we will start the session a bit early, like 5 minutes early, and then we will have some quiz on the topics that we covered in this session. So it's a good motivation for you all to go back and look at the resources as well. So we look forward to seeing you again in the next session and all the further sessions. Thank you very much. And thank you, Vlad, Minendra, Guilda.
Thank you everyone for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.